When you've been conditioned to survive off of breadcrumbs, when God finally blesses you with a full course meal, you're going to need grace to receive. This message is entitled Grace to Receive. If you've never had dinner or meal at a 5-star restaurant, you don't know how good it is. So when you've been surviving off of breadcrumbs, minimalization, the bare minimum of others, because you love hard and you really don't expect much from others other than genuine, sincere love and reciprocity. When you don't demand much, you're the ones that end up receiving the least from others. And it's not until you step back and you do an assessment of your relationship that you realize you have a thorn in your flesh. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 19, God encourages the Apostle Paul by letting him know that his grace, his unmerited favor, which is God's his supernatural ability, strength, and power, is more than enough to handle any situation that you find yourself in. And so for Paul, it was a thorn in the flesh. It was a weakness. And so Paul's response was he now glories in his weaknesses because he now has the power of God. He now has the grace of God to endure, to persevere, to overcome any obstacle, any challenge. And if you're like me, who come from humble beginnings, when God blesses me his way, it's overwhelming to the point where I begin to believe that I'm unworthy of this blessing. And that comes from the spirit or the guilt and shame of past sins that the enemy wants to continue to bring up and throw in my face, as if I haven't been forgiven, as if God's grace hasn't wiped away all my sins, even the remembrance of it. And so I have to now embrace the grace of God, which is a challenge, because I'm so used to receiving so little from people, from the women that I've been in relationships with for so long. And so now when God blesses me with his very best, it's staggering, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming in a good way. But I have to remember this is God reaching through the woman that I love to show me what I've been missing for quite some time, for not all my life. So it requires grace to receive. And so even in my weakness, I can now glory in my weaknesses, because even in the darkest, most remote part of my life, or in your life or your situation, in your most weakest, most vulnerable moment, it's God's power that shows up in a mighty way like never before. God's power is shown most powerful, most magnificent in our weaknesses. So if it makes sense that we can't receive God's best as if it's just common, as if it's just any old blessing. No, his blessings are earth-shaking, miraculous, to the point where You just have to throw up both hands in total surrender and begin to praise God for his favor, for his unconditional love. Although you don't deserve it, you couldn't earn it. It's that reckless love that I spoke about a few months ago. So again, it takes the grace of God to receive the blessings of God. So if you haven't experienced it, prepare your heart to receive what God has in store for you who love him. All right? Eyes have not seen, neither have ears heard what God has in store for those who love him. All right, be encouraged, brothers and sisters. That's my time. I thank you for yours. And as always, remember, Jesus Christ is Lord. And he's Lord over all, all right? God bless you. Stay tuned. See you guys real soon, all right? Take care.